I want to get into this because I think this is so important. I have been doing a lot of reading, and of course, I get Israel Today magazine, I get Christian News, Jerusalem Post, Christian edition, and I'm online with friends in Israel and Haifa, and they're very concerned about what's going on. And of course, we should be. And after reading, just skimming through the book, and I want us to get into this a little bit. And I want you to begin it tonight by asking some questions, and we're going to show you the books. And I think he'll tell us where they're available and how you can get one. But I'll tell you, folks, these are two books that are for the now, for this hour. And I believe it would behoove all of you that can to get a hold of them, because it'll give you a whole new perspective on the church, on our country, and what's in store if we don't wake up. So, Ann, go ahead.
Well, the first book that we're going to talk about is The Israeli Connection. Mm-hmm. Tell us why you wrote this book and how you come about writing it.
I think it came about largely as a result of the teaching that I was doing in Sunday school.
Oh.
My spiritual gift is teaching,
Yeah.
and it was because my sister had gone over to Israel like 7 or 8 times, and I didn't understand and what the fascination was. I was a believer, but I just didn't get it. And then one time she came back and she had a cassette tape. She said, "I want you to listen to this." And I listened to that tape, and that one little tape did it for me. It was all about the history of Israel, the modern history, and all the myth of occupation and just what really happened. And something clicked. And so I said, what else you got? You know? And it's like, oh, that's what started it. And it's like I couldn't get it fast enough. It's just like, I like to explain it like in the novel, The Secret Garden.
Yeah.
You know that? With the uncle's mansion that had all these rooms,
Yeah.
that had all these treasures, but you couldn't go in the rooms. Well, it was like getting a key to one of those rooms that there's all those treasures in it. And you find out, you see all this stuff, and just when you think you've just about exhausted it, you find a secret passageway, and it goes somewhere else. And there's another room,
Treasure.
and there's all this stuff. And so as I was going through, and I learned about the feasts, I learned about the history, I learned about the covenants. It's like, this is fascinating. This is just, I mean, Christ is through it from beginning to end. It's all about Christ. It's not like, well, Christ showed up, you know, at this point. Now the New Testament is about him. No, the Old Testament. It's all about Jesus Christ.
Exactly.
So I started teaching on some of these things, and it just seemed like I got so much what I think is good stuff here. I think I'll put it into a book and just see what happens. And it snowballed. I just, as with almost every book that I've done, I start off in this direction, but I end up way over here because God has the way of kind of, you know, moving you around.
That's right.
You know. So when it was done, I could look at it and say, wow, Lord, you really took me on a journey, but I have learned so much. But not only did I know a bunch of stuff, but I was passionate about what that meant for us. That we've got to understand this, like I was sharing before about the grafting in, and how much we owe to Israel.
You need to share that with them, Ed, about that grafting, what the Lord showed you.
Oh, there are so many things that I find just so fascinating about how the Lord explains things through nature and through everyday life, that it's right before our eyes if we can just look at it. And it's from Romans 11, where it says, you know, we are grafted in. So I kind of presume that the people are a little bit familiar with that concept. The Gentiles have been grafted into the natural olive tree. Right. Well, I was at a conference last year with Christian Friends of Israel in Jerusalem, that I'm an area rep for them now. And so it was their 25th anniversary. I was there. They invited me to come and sell the book, you know, it's just as a writer, let me say, you have no idea what a thrill it is when somebody invites you,
yeah.
and you don't have to beg and plead, please, can I come and sell my book? Somebody actually asked you to come. So I was there, and there was a fellow who was doing the presenting on this, and he told this story about this friend who was with a horticulturalist, and the horticulturalist knew nothing about the Bible. He was not a believer, knew nothing about Romans 11, but he was explaining the process whereby when you want to get the olive trees to, you don't want to take as long as it normally takes, you can go through a grafting process that kind of short-circuit the process. And he said, here's what we do. You take a natural olive tree, which represents Israel.
Right.
He didn't know that, but, and you cut off some of the branches, and you could, you know what that's all about, the grafting process. And what they do is they take those branches that are cut off and they lay them at the foot of the tree. For 3 years, they get as dry as you can imagine.
Yeah, especially over there.
And they take some of the branches from a wild olive tree, which represents us, the Gentiles, and they graft them in. So for a 3-year period, you've got the roots actually have to force the sap up into the wild branches because the DNA is different. And it's kind of like the Lord having to force Israel into the church the way he has to today, that they just don't get it. But for 3 years, that process takes place. After 3 years, he drills holes around the place where he grafted them in, takes the dry branches
It's been laying there.
they've been laying there for 3 years, grafts them back in. And in the words of that horticulturalist, he said, you know, it's almost like those natural branches, they get jealous of the other ones that are getting all the sap. Which is exactly what Romans 11 says. That's our purpose, is to make them jealous. So for another 3 years then, you've got both the natural and the wild, they're grafted in, but for another 3 years, nothing happens. In the 7th year, they start to bear fruit, both the wild and the natural branches.
My.
And if that isn't a picture of why the church needs to understand that our roots are in Israel.
That's right.
It's because of Israel that we have our existence.
Yeah.
We have been grafted in, and our job as the church is to do the job that those wild branches are doing, to make the natural ones jealous. And there's another analogy that I love this. I didn't think of this myself, but I heard this at another conference, where you want to see the role of the church compared with Israel. It's like in Lord of the Rings. I don't know if you read it or saw it with Sam and Frodo.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the kingdom, but Frodo was trying to get to the destination where he could pitch the ring in and bring an end to the, all the evil and usher in a new kingdom. That's Israel.
Yeah.
Sam's job was to help him get there. And that's the church.
That's right.
And we just don't see it that way. And it hurts me so much when I see what's happening to Israel today. And everybody's turning their back on Israel.
That's right.
And so much of the church is not coming to Israel's. I mean, without the church, without Israel, we'd be nothing. I mean, Jesus, if you haven't noticed, he was a Jew.
That's right.
And all the apostles were Jewish. And initially, the church was all Jewish.
Right.
It's just we came in later.
Got grafted in.
And there's so many things after we came in that we didn't really do it any favors. But you know, with some of the replacement theology
That's
and some of that
right.
other
Crusades.
garbage that happened. But we owe everything, all the covenants. They were made to
Exactly.
Israel, not to
Yes.
us. It's only because we are grafted in
Right.
that we are the beneficiaries of all of those things. Yes, they were rebellious. Yes, they turned their back on the. Haven't we
That's
done that?
right.
Yeah.
Are we any
Exactly.
better?
Where are we at
I
now?
don't think so. So that's one of the reasons why I want people to be able to read what's in that book, because I have laid out as best I can what God has done through the years in order to protect Israel.
Yeah.
Right.
How the big picture is that you've got God and Satan all, you know, fighting this battle for supremacy. I mean, it's not like they're two equals, you know. We know it's
Yeah.
not like that, but Satan thinks that they are. But everything that's happening, you can see, and everything that's happened, you look at what the miraculous things that God has done to protect Israel. It's like, how they can, you know, still reject, you know, is, I guess we could say it's beyond me, but how I was the same way.
Yeah,
You know,
we were
until I
blinded.
came to Christ, I was the same way.
And it's so, show this, I don't know if we have it on the screen or not, but you have a study guide also to this book, which can
There.
be used in the church.
Yeah, I wrote this study guide maybe a year or so after the book, because I realized there was a need to go deeper, and that the study guide, which is only like $4.95,
Yes, there it is.
it takes you through chapter by chapter, but it will enable you to go deeper and to dig deeper, and it forces you to really think through some of these things. And there's just some chapters in there, just in the study guide itself, that I think they are such a revelation. They were to me when I first understood this.
Yeah.
It's like, man, I got to get this out. They need to hear this. They need to understand.
Absolutely. Every church, every Christian needs to read this. And I encourage people tonight to get the book.